with a dream in my cardigan. Welcome to the land of fame excess. Am I gonna fit in? Jumped in the cab, here I am for the first time. Look to my right and I see the Hollywood sign. This is all so crazy. Everybody seems so famous. Time is turning and I'm feeling kinda homesick. Too much pressure and I'm nervous. That's when the taxi man turned on the radio and the Jay-Z song was on. And the Jay-Z song was on. And the Jay-Z song was on. So I put my hands up to play my song. The butterflies fly away. I'm nodding my head like yeah, moving my hips like yeah. I got my hands up to play my song, and you're gonna be okay. Yeah, yeah. It's a party in the USA. Yeah, it's a party in the USA. Get to the club in my taxi cab. Everybody's looking at me now. Like, who's that chick that's rockin' kicks? She's gotta be from out of town. It's so hot 'cause my girl's not around me. It's definitely not a Nashville party, 'cause all I see is stilettos. I guess I never got the memo. My stomach's turning and I'm feeling kinda homesick. Too much pressure and I'm nervous. That's when the DJ dropped my favorite tune, and a Britney song was on. And a Britney song was on. And a Britney song was on. So I put my hands up to play my song. The butterflies fly away. I'm nodding my head like yeah, moving my hips like yeah. I got my hands up to play my song, and I'm gonna be okay. Yeah, yeah. It's a party in the USA. Yeah, it's a party in the USA. I feel like hopping on a flight back to my hometown tonight. But something stops me every time. The DJ plays my song and I feel it. So I put my hands up to play my song. The butterflies fly away. I'm nodding my head like yeah, moving my hips like yeah. I got my hands up to play my song, and I'm gonna be okay. Yeah, yeah. It's a party in the USA. I put my hands up to play my song. The butterflies fly away. I'm nodding my head like yeah, moving my hips like yeah. I got my hands up to play my song, and I'm gonna be okay. Yeah, yeah. It's a party in the USA. Yeah, it's a party in the USA.
Party time! Hey, y'all can have a seat. Man, happy 4th of July, everybody. How are you guys doing this morning? Good. Hey, side note, we actually thought about doing Sweet Home Alabama instead. I know. Instead, we decided on Sweet Hannah, Montana. Yeah. Who writes this stuff? I don't know. I do, I'm sorry. Hey, I'm Paul. It's so good to see you guys here today. I'm one of the pastors here on staff. And man, we are so grateful that you guys are here today, especially if you're new around here. If you're new around here, thanks for giving us an hour out of your weekend, your holiday weekend, to be with us. We're so glad that you guys are here. Aren't we, Flatirons? We're glad that they're here today. We got a great service planned for you guys today. We're going to sing some more songs together, and in just a little bit, Ben Foote, our teaching pastor, he's kicking off a brand new series called Post-Christian Jesus. But before we get into any of that, I wanted to put something in front of you guys that we do every week here at Flatirons, and that's serve. Serving here at Flatirons, our volunteers, we couldn't do any of this without our volunteers. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that today, and I thought what better way to do that than to actually invite somebody who serves every weekend. And so I want to invite my friend Stacen, my new friend Stacen, up here. Would you guys help me invite Stacen up here on stage with me? What's up, man?
How's it going, Paul?
Good. Hey, first of all, thanks so much for being here this weekend and just talking about serving. Now, you serve on the safety team, right?
That's correct.
Okay, the safety team. And would you just tell us a little bit about how you started here? Maybe like when you first attended here and then when you first started serving here.
All right, yeah. So I started coming to Flatirons in 2015, and then it was about a year after that in 2016 when I finally decided to serve.
Okay. So 2015, you step into this place. It's huge. Now, like, tell me a little bit of like what brought you to Flatirons.
Yeah, so in 2015, it was rough. I was going through a rough divorce. I was broken, I was lost, I was hurt, and I needed help. I'd been looking for a church to call home and just never found one, right? So I thought, okay, well, I'll give Flatirons a try, right? Yeah. So I remember the first time that I came to Flatirons, I stood in the back on the balcony away from everybody, as far away from everybody as I could possibly get. I just wanted to be a number. I didn't want to be recognized. And it wasn't long after Jim started talking that, and I knew that Flatirons was my home.
He has that sort of effect on a lot of us, right? So in 2016, you jump on our team, our safety team, and now jump into today. Stacen is actually leading all of our campus's safety team. So yeah, give it up for him on that.
Thank you.
But just a few weeks ago, I heard that you took your team up to Jim's cabin for a day. And what were you guys doing, like training, or what was happening up there?
You know, it was pretty incredible. We got to spend the day up at Jim's cabin. It was so inspiring. No training.
Okay.
It was strictly just to relax. But one of the things that we did get to do is share a little bit of our stories about why we got to Flatirons. You know, maybe there were team members that got to share how the team helped them get through a hard part in their life, and then also how the team members now feel like they're part of something bigger.
That's awesome. So your team is not just like coming in on Sunday, clocking in, clocking out. They're like, this is a team. This is a community.
Absolutely. It's so much more than just coming in on a Sunday. You know, we spend time together. We go through hard times together. We go through good times together. We laugh. We cry. We do all of those things together. We train together, and it's really just kind of built this community. And one of the things that I tell new safety team members when they come on is that we're a ministry first and a safety team second. Because if we can't take care of our people spiritually, then how can we expect them to take care of everybody that comes here to bump into Jesus?
That's awesome, man. So last question, and probably the most important question today is, if you could summarize in a sentence or two, like what God has done inside of you just through serving around here, what would that be?
Man, I tell you, it's really incredible. Coming in, church was really big, and being able to serve and go through life has made a big church feel like a really small family.
That's awesome, man. Hey, can you guys give it up for Stacen? Thanks so much, dude. Seriously.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
Hey, if you guys are looking for a place to serve, it's not just safety. We have places all over our campuses here at Lafayette that you can jump in and serve. But if there's one thing I want to leave you guys with today in regards to serving here, it's this. It's that we don't want something from you. We know that volunteering and serving, like, we can't do this without you guys, but we don't want something from you. We truly believe that God wants something for you. He wants something for your life, and we believe that serving is a part of that he can unlock something inside of you, something that might be hidden or lost. And so if you're sitting here and you're feeling like, man, maybe I need to serve, hop on our website. You can click on that button, get involved, and you can start that process of serving around here. I'm gonna pray for us, and then we're gonna worship together. God, we're just so grateful for you. We're so thankful for this life that we have in Jesus. And we know that you served us first, God. You loved us first, and it's out of that love that we give back, and we find a heart for people who maybe don't know you. And God, we know that we find a new way and a new truth and a new life in you. And so God, we praise you this morning. We lift you up. We have a hope in you, Jesus. We love you and praise you. And it's in Jesus' name that I pray. Now, Lafayette, let's stand up. Now, if you find some hope in Jesus, if you have a great thing today, let me hear you lift up a shout of praise this morning. Come on, let's worship together.
Sing. Alone in my sorrow and dead in my sin. Lost without hope, with no place to begin. Your love made a way to let mercy come in. When death was arrested, my life began. Ash was redeemed, only beauty remains. And my orphan heart was given. And my morning grew quiet, and my feet rose to dance. When death was arrested, my life began. Come on, if you know it, sing it out. Oh, your grace, so free, washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. Released from my chains, I'm a prisoner no more. My shame was a ransom he faithfully bore. Oh, he canceled my debt and he called me his friend. When death was arrested, my life began. Oh, your grace, so free, washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. It begins with you, Jesus. Our Savior displayed on a criminal's cross. Darkness rejoiced as though heaven had lost. But then Jesus arose with our freedom in hand. Come on, that's when death was arrested, my life began. That's when death was arrested, my life began. Oh, your grace, so free, washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Oh, we're free, free, forever we're free. Come join the song of all the redeemed. Yes, we're free, free, forever, amen. When death was arrested, my life began. Oh, we're free, free, forever we're free. Come join the song of all the redeemed. Yes, we're free, free, forever, amen. When death was arrested, my life began. So as we keep singing this morning, we're gonna take a breath together. We're gonna take a breath knowing that whatever you walked in here with, whatever I walked in here with this morning, that God is here, that God is in this room, and He's walking with you and He's walking with me. So we're gonna breathe into that truth. And if you know this, will you sing this with me? You brought me here to rest and given me space to breathe. So I'll stay still until it sinks in. Oh, we sing, I will in the loving arms of a beautiful Father. Yes, I will, Jesus. I'll breathe deep and know that He is good. He's a love like no other. right, what's up, Flatirons? It's so good to be here with you guys. Would you take a second, say hi to someone around you before you take a seat? All right, if you're joining us online, we love you guys. We're so glad that we get to connect with you no matter where you are in the world, but we cannot wait to have you back in a room. So we'll see you soon.
All right, Flatirons, what's up? We good? All right, hey, happy 4th of July. Yeah, I'm glad you're here even on the 4th. That means you're really into this Jesus stuff if you come here today. You gotta postpone for another hour the barbecue and the hamburgers and the blowing up of stuff, so glad you're here. I'll tell you who got a jump on blowing stuff up. That was my entire neighborhood last night from like 9 to 1 a.m., so if you're short on sleep, I feel you, but very glad you're here. Today, I actually want to jump immediately into what we're talking about because we have a lot to talk about, and that's because we're in a brand new series. And so I immediately want to get right into what is this post-Christian Jesus series all about? And that's because I know that some of us are sitting in here, we're watching online, and we see post-Christian Jesus up on the screen, and we're going like, I don't know if I feel comfortable with this, right? Like, are you saying that Jesus isn't a Christian anymore? No, that's the sentence doesn't make sense. That's ridiculous. Not what we're saying. Some of you are going, yeah, but why did you give Jesus tattoos and an Apple Watch? Again, nope, it's not Jesus. That's Adam from Michelangelo's super famous painting in the Sistine Chapel called The Creation of Adam. Let's zoom it out so you can maybe recognize it. There you go. I don't care what they say. We still got class here. All right, so what is this post-Christian Jesus thing all about? What is this series about? All right, in short, this series is all about the fact that here at Flatirons, we still believe that Jesus is the way and the truth and the life, and we still believe that Jesus is like culturally pitch perfect, even though in America, we're living in a culture that has become increasingly more post-Christian by definition. All right, what does post-Christian mean? Well, I'll explain that too. I'll explain what a post-Christian society looks like. But before I do that in a minute, I got to give you a couple disclaimers just to make sure we're all on the same page here and we have a good time together. All right? The first disclaimer is this. As I explain what a post-Christian society is, please don't become angry Christians on me. Okay? Please. What I mean by that is this, the last thing that I want to do in this series is get all the Christians angry together and create like this us versus them, like Christians versus culture mentality. It's not at all what I want to do. The goal of this series is hopefully to create some compassion for all of the people, ourselves included, who are living in kind of a messed up, broken culture. And the goal is to leave every week asking ourselves, like, how can I follow Jesus better and introduce other people to the awesome life that he offers? How can I do that better within the current culture that I live in? All right, so don't get angry, don't become angry Christians on me. The other disclaimer is this, I promise you, we are not gonna go doomsday prophet up in here. I promise, right? Not what we're gonna do. As I talk about post-Christian society, there's gonna be a tendency for some of us to get fatalistic, all right? And to go like, does this mean Christianity is disappearing forever? No, right? Christianity has been around for 2,000 years. It has survived Roman persecution. It's actually awesome. It's currently thriving in Africa. It's even thriving in places like China and the Middle East where Christianity is illegal. Like, you don't have to worry about that. And that is because we believe that Jesus paid for and secured victory for us and for the world around us. And so, boom, you can clap at that. And so our culture might be backwards at times and confusing at times, but Jesus ain't going anywhere. Neither are we, neither is his church, all right? Which means that throughout the series and throughout today, we can rest in this promise from Jesus. He said, in this world, you'll have trouble, but you can just take heart. I've overcome the world. I have figured it out. I have purchased you victory. So don't become angry Christians and don't go doomsday prophet on me, all right? With that being said, what is a post-Christian society? And here's our definition of a society like that. It's this: a post-Christian society is one that largely rejects Christian values and no longer considers Christianity to be the basis or the foundation for its ethics and its culture. And there are many cultural historians and social scientists, both Christian and not Christian, who believe that America is either already a post-Christian society or we're on the very brink of finally becoming one. And honestly, when you look at America, it's hard to disagree. Here are some of the post-Christian traits that I see in our current American culture. So first of all, one that maybe jumps to a lot of our minds is Christianity seems to be ridiculed a lot. It's just kind of made fun of a lot. You see this in with celebrities and late night talk show hosts and artists and all these people who, by the way, claim to be admiringly tolerant, but they'll make fun of it. So we kind of see that a little bit, outright just people making fun of it. But I think more often what I see is that I think our culture views Jesus as just kind of irrelevant. What's the point in listening to this outdated religious myth stuff? That's the look I get from people when I tell them something crazy. For example, Jesus said it's a better life to only sleep with one person, and it's the person that you're married to, and I believe him. I just get this look you born in colonial times? What's wrong with you? People see it as irrelevant. So people make fun of it, see it as irrelevant. Because of that, people get really quiet about their faith. Right? Especially when it comes to faith in Jesus. That's a culturally taboo thing to talk about. For example, can you even imagine a celebrity at an award show, someone like a Leonardo DiCaprio taking an award and then going, hey, by the way, real quick, I want you to know that I love Jesus. I think he's the Son of God. I believed he died and came back to life on a literal day in history 2,000 years ago, and I worship him and I follow him. It'd be crickets. Right? And then most people would look at him and go, oh, poor Leo, he lost his mind, right? I miss Titanic Leo. Where did he go? It'd be career suicide, all right? So it's made fun of or it's seen as irrelevant and people are quiet about it. You're seeing it in the cultural vibe. On top of that, you're seeing it in statistics. So in American surveys, we're seeing an exponential growth in the number of people who, when asked what religious beliefs they hold, they check the box that's labeled none. I don't have any. We're seeing those numbers grow. I think one of the main ways that we see this post-Christian thing that I'm talking about is we see it in the confusion of our culture as our culture tries to create moral, ethical belief systems without somehow using Jesus in the Bible and Christianity. It becomes very confusing. For example, in 2005, the Supreme Court decided that it's unconstitutional to display the 10 Commandments inside a courthouse, even though our judicial system is largely based on Judeo-Christian ethics, and that's confusing. Because what it means is that the Supreme Court, which is ultimately based on Christian ethics, used those ethics to say it's unethical to display those ethics inside the courthouse that's supposed to uphold those ethics. It's just confusing. And then we see that confusion leak into our own lives. And that's why we see this new cultural movement of people who are very vocal about their beliefs, but they can't really point to any moral foundation for it, other than just because that's what I believe. That's why most arguments on social media can really just be boiled down to full-grown adults going, yeah, huh, nuh-uh, yeah, huh, nuh-uh. Because we can't even agree on the foundation that we're building all of our morality on. And those are just some of the post-Christian indicators that I see in our world. Now, some of you might be going wait a minute, Ben, I thought you said we weren't going to be angry or doomsday, and you sound depressing. Well, I'm not depressed about it. I'm really not, because the irony of living in a post-Christian society is that a lot of people are running away from Jesus because they think that will help them run toward other good things, like identity and peace and justice and joy. And the irony is that you can't find those things without Jesus. The irony is, if you want to run toward identity and peace and justice and joy, the best way to do that is run toward Jesus. The irony is that even in a post-Christian world, Jesus is still the best answer for all of humanity's deepest needs and desires. That's why I'm not depressed about it. If anything, I kind of think we might be on the brink of like revival. We might be on the brink of people finally being ready with fresh ears to hear about Jesus. Let's pray and go home. So that's what we're gonna talk about throughout this series, all right? We're gonna take 4 things that every human being like needs and desires at a core level. We're gonna take identity and peace and justice and joy, and we're gonna look at how culture tells us we can get these things, and then we're gonna look at how Jesus promises we can have those things, and then every single week we're just gonna have to make a choice. Who are we gonna trust? Culture or Jesus? And so for the rest of our time today, I wanna zoom in on identity. Identity, who am I? And do I have anything valuable to offer the world around me? These are questions that every single human being asks themselves, identity. And the important part about identity that we need to know today is that at the end of the day, none of us can find our identity outside the context of other relationships. You can't make an identity for yourself in isolation. It's like you just kind of need other people to bounce like, who am I, off of them. And lots of times other people tell us who we are, for better or for worse. At the end of the day, this is exactly what our parents told us when we were in middle school, and they're trying to discourage us from hanging out with the dude who wore Jinkos and dyed his bowl cut purple and smoked cigarettes, right? Just a personal story. They told us, you become who you hang out with. And that's largely true. I couldn't afford Jinkos, but I figured everything else out. You do become who you hang out with. And so for us to talk about identity today, we actually have to talk about the typical place where most of us find and maintain our relationships these days, which means we have to talk about social media. I've talked about social media a couple times in the last 6 months, and I just want to be clear with you and just let you know that I actually think social media is amazing. I do. I think it's like one of the most ingenious human inventions in recent history. I also just think it's a tool, like a hammer. I'm sure some of you have heard this. It's like if you use the tool appropriately, you can build beautiful things with it. If you use the tool inappropriately, you're going to hurt yourself and people around you. And I think that one of the more common ways that we use social media to hurt ourselves and other people is whenever we start using social media as a substitute for having real, actual, face-to-face relationships with people. And whether we like it or not, or want to admit it or not, if we're being honest, most of us have in one way or another, with at least a few relationships, we have done that. And that, listen, is a brand new phenomenon in human history. We're all trying to figure it out together. Even just 20 years ago, we would have thought it was absolutely impossible to have a friendship with someone that you'd never meet in your entire life. And on top of that, the social media thing is just kind of strange when you think about it. It's just that we're living it, so we don't usually see that, but it's strange. To kind of point out how strange it is, let's use our imaginations here. I want us to do something. So let's just, for those of you who can remember life before the internet, I want you to imagine sometime before the mid-2000s when internet and social media just exploded. Imagine sometime before that, and let's say you have a person in your life, and let's just call this dude Bucky, all right? I'm really banking on no one being called Bucky in this room. So you got this guy in your life, Bucky, all right? Maybe you used to go to school with him way back in the day, but now you never see Bucky anymore, all right? You never have him over for dinner. You never go out to get drinks with him. He doesn't work with you. Like maybe once in a year, you'll bump into him at the grocery store and it's always an awkward conversation, all right? You don't know Bucky. But at the same time, once a day, Bucky sends you an envelope in the mail. And inside the envelope are 3 to 4 pictures of the things he did that day. You see where I'm going with this? Okay, so you open the envelope and there's like a Polaroid picture of a steak dinner, all right? And in Sharpie at the bottom, he just wrote, "Dinner at Elway's, delicious." That's it. That's all you got. right? There's another picture in there of like a hike, and he just wrote, "A day hike, I can't believe I live here." Just, okay. Every now and then you get a VHS tape in the mail. So you put it in the VCR and you hit play, and it's just 30 seconds of Bucky like at a concert with his big recorder. It's just indiscernible noise for 30 seconds. And you just hear him behind the camera going like, "Woo! I love you, Dave Matthews!" or whatever. Now remember, you never actually hang out with Bucky, ever. But you get this package from him once a day in the mail, and not only do you look at all this stuff, but there's kind of this expectation that you're gonna write something on the picture and send it back to him. And so you do. Right, you take the picture, you write on the back like, "Oh, dinner looks delicious." And then you take the VHS, you put a sticky note on it, and you gotta come up with something witty. And so you're like, "Oh, so jealous of the concert. I wish Dave would crash into me." Something like that. That was a good one. So you write these little notes on all of his media, and then you put it back in the mailbox and you send it back to Bucky, and there's all this social pressure to do it because you know that if you don't review and approve of Bucky's life that day, there's a chance that Bucky's feelings are going to get hurt. And so now you're spending like 30 minutes a day reviewing Bucky's media and writing these little notes and telling him how awesome he is, even though you don't believe he's awesome at all. And then you put it back in the mail and you send it back to him. Now, if you had a relationship like that back before the mid-2000s, you would never in a million years call it a real relationship. You would never call it a friendship. That's for sure. In fact, chances are you would think that Bucky is narcissistic and self-involved and has an unhealthy need to be complimented all of the time. But now, 17 years from the birth of Facebook and the social media boom, none of us even blink an eye at spending hours a day doing basically the same exact thing on Instagram, and we call them friendships. And listen, I am not trying to damn the whole thing. I'm certainly not trying to make anyone feel stupid. What I'm trying to do is point out that how much friendship and our idea of friendship, my own included, has changed in the last couple decades. And this massive change in how we find and maintain friendships has come with a massive change in how we find and maintain our identities. What I mean is before social media, like it took actual time and intentionality and commitment to create a friendship. Like you really had to get to know the other person, and even scarier than that, you really had to let them get to know you. To make a friendship, it took honesty and vulnerability, which took trust and it took courage. But if you really went for it, at the end of the day, over time, you'd have a friend. And it was just someone that you could go and crash on their couch. Like you could look like a dumpster fire that day, it didn't matter. You could do nothing particularly fun with them. They were your friend, and you wanted to be in their presence. But that took time. And the idea of like the overnight friendship just didn't used to exist. Like this idea back in the day that what we do today is normal, you could never do it. Like you could never go to a Starbucks and say something like we say today, which is like you meet someone for the first time, you talk to them for 10 minutes and you're like, "Hey, before you leave, let me friend you." You would sound psycho back in the day. What you definitely couldn't do is go, "Hey, before you leave," and then you pull out a device and you go, "Let me follow you." Like you'll get the cops called on you immediately. But now the majority of our relationships are found and maintained through social media, and social media is just that. It is media. It is entertainment. It is designed to be consumed by other people called viewers, and just like entertainment, it comes with a review system, likes, dislikes, comments. And so the vulnerability and like honesty and trust building required for a real friendship, it's almost impossible, not totally, but almost impossible to have those things on social media. Why? Because you're expected to be entertaining. And we don't want our entertainers to be vulnerable or real with us. For example, you'll never see Brad Pitt on the red carpet being real and vulnerable with us. You won't. You're not gonna see some interviewer going like, tell us how you're doing tonight, Brad. And he's gonna grab the microphone and go, well, Karen, I'm actually feeling very sad. You're not gonna see that, right? You're not gonna see him go like, oh, on top of that, I have severe, and let me tell you, severe gastrointestinal issues tonight. Like, it's not gonna happen. You're gonna see perfection. You're gonna see a 10 out of 10 woman on his arm and a $100,000 suit, and he's gonna be sporting a $1 million smile because he is a media star. And we don't want him to be vulnerable or honest. We want him to look good and entertain us. And if we aren't careful with our social media, then we end up becoming like the celebrities of our own lives. And our friends just become viewers, and our life just becomes entertainment, and our entire identities get wrapped up in our reviews. Likes, comments, and shares. And all of this leads to, if we're not incredibly careful, it leads to exactly what we see in our society today, which is this heartbreaking epidemic of loneliness and isolation in America. We know our identities are found through relationship, and we were told that we could find relationship on social media, but it's not really working out all that great. And so we're left feeling lonely and insecure because it is impossible for you to keep up a 5-star review on your life day in and day out. And we wind up feeling isolated because it's becoming harder and harder just to have like real friendships. Like when you get together with someone face to face, you can't edit every word that comes out of your mouth like you can with a post. Like you're gonna say something dumb and ignorant, all right? And when you hang out with someone like face to face for real, you can't airbrush your life, which means you're gonna go to dinner with friends and you're gonna get cilantro stuck in your teeth and no one's gonna tell you, all right? And that comes with anxiety. And so we isolate. And at the end of the day, the result over time is that you begin to lose your identity. And it's because you've got 2 lives, the one you post and your real life. And very few people, maybe no one, knows the real you. And because identity is found in relationship, what happens is over time, you don't know the real you. You don't know who you are anymore. And you've got all these pictures and all these videos on the internet, and you're looking at pictures from your friends, and everything looks awesome on the outside, but on the inside, you feel completely unknown. A very lonely place to be. Everything looks great on the outside. On the inside, you are rotting away. Jesus actually called this fake double life, like this mask-wearing life. He called it out for what it is. He gave a name to it. And he said that a person living like that and wearing the mask and living a double fake life is a whitewashed tomb. Jesus actually said this when he's talking to a group of Pharisees. And Pharisees were like the Jewish religious experts of their day. This is all in Matthew 23. You can go and read this on your own later if you want. But Jesus is actually chewing these guys out. He's lighting them up. And that's because the Pharisees had become convinced that following God could really just be boiled down to outward appearances, looking like you've got it all together, and rule following. And so what the Pharisees ended up doing is they took the darker, more broken parts of their lives and they hid that part of themselves away. And then they poured all of this attention into their outward appearance. They wanted to make sure that anytime you play the comparison game, they come across looking like they've got it all together and they're better than you. And Jesus said that that life is a whitewashed tomb, which means it looks beautiful on the outside. It looks perfect at first glance until you realize you're standing in a graveyard and there is no real life here. Jesus said it like this. He goes, "Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites." He goes, "You're like whitewashed tombs. You look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside, you're full of dead men's bones and everything unclean. In the same way, on the outside, you appear to people as righteous, like you've got all your stuff together, but on the inside, you're full of hypocrisy and wickedness." And I think the parallel to what I'm talking about today is easy to see. Could even change some of the words in this verse from Jesus to make it like more relevant to our modern culture. We could say this: woe to you, your lives are just photoshopped social media posts. You look beautiful, you look great, right? You look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside, you're rotting away. And on the outside, you appear to have this amazing life, like you've got it all together, but on the inside, you're full of insecurity and fear and loneliness. Our Instagram account is filled with snapshots of perfection. Like you look great, right? And your life looks exciting, and you always have something poignant to say about what's going on in the news. On the outside looking in, we look perfect, but we know it's a fake version of our lives. We know that we're wearing a mask, and we know that behind the mask, like behind the social media posts, or at this point, if social media isn't your thing, you can expand that example to anything that you chase after in order to earn approval from the people around you. So behind the mask, behind the social media post, or behind your attempt to be valedictorian or to get the promotion, or behind your PhD diplomas that hang on the wall in your office, or behind your record sales numbers year in and year out, and behind your perfect spouse and 3 kids in upscale suburb, behind all of the stuff that we use to prove our worth to the world around us, we know the truth. And the truth is that we don't really know who we are anymore. And we feel lost and confused and lonely and terrified, if we're being honest, and we feel like we have no one to share that with because that's completely unpostable. And so we're slowly rotting away on the inside. So what is the cure for that? What's the cure for that identity crisis? Like, what is the antidote for the loneliness and isolation that comes with constantly trying to prove our worth? Well, the good news is that Jesus doesn't just point out the bad news. He also gives us a better way to find our identity, which is actually one of the core pieces of Jesus's main message to the world and to us. Remember, identity is always found in the context of relationship, and Jesus claimed that he could connect you and me to the most important relationship we'll ever have. In fact, he claimed that he is the only person who can do this for us. He said it like this. He goes, "I'm the way and the truth and the life, and no one comes to the Father, God, except through me." Jesus says when we put our faith in him, we get access to a relationship with God. Not only do we get to have a relationship with him, but we get to call him our Father. And so Jesus is saying, put your faith in me. If you do, God becomes your Father. And when he does, like a good dad, he's gonna help mold and change and shape your identity into something new and better. He's gonna tell you who you are. Jesus promises that when we put our faith in him, a few things happen to us. First thing that happens to us is this: your old identity is erased. Here's what that means. In 1 Corinthians, a guy named Paul, he talks about this. He drives this point home, and he rattles off a list of the awful things that we say about ourselves, right? The false identity that we've bought into. He gives us this list of the names that we call ourselves. And then after that list, he goes, that is what some of you were. You used to be that, fair. But since then, you were washed, you were sanctified, and you were justified in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ and by the Spirit of our God, which means whatever name calling you do when you look at yourself in the mirror, whatever derogatory terms you use to label yourself, whether that's loser or loner or addict, abused, broke, washed up, unsuccessful, jealous, selfish, unwanted, unlovable, God looks at you and goes, nope, you don't get to call yourself that anymore. God says, I get to tell you who you are. And I know it feels like that sometimes, but that is not who you are. I washed those names away. When you follow Jesus, your old identity is erased. Not only is your old identity erased, but we also get a new identity. John 1 tells us this. It says, yet to all who received him, Jesus, to those who believed in Jesus' name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision or a husband's will, but born of God. Which means, okay, so first of all, you are not the names you call yourself when you're disappointed in yourself, because you didn't get the promotion, or you didn't make the varsity team, or you didn't get the scholarship, or you're still single even though you don't want to be. God goes, nope, those aren't the names that you call yourself. And instead, what you should be calling yourself is a son or a daughter of the living God. When you put your faith in Jesus, your old identity is erased and you get a new identity. And then on top of all of that, and this is the point that's probably most important and relevant to what we're talking about today. But on top of all of that, you don't have to earn this new identity. Jesus earned it for you. Paul says it like this in Ephesians, one of my top 10 favorite verses. He goes, "For it's by grace that you have been saved through faith, and this not from yourselves. You didn't do this yourself. It is the free gift from God. It's not by works, by something you did and earned. That way no one can boast about it." This new identity, being sons and daughters of the living God, is not something you have to earn. In other words, you do not have to constantly seek the approval of God. Jesus earned that identity for you. He bought that approval for you. When you put your faith in Jesus, your old identity is erased. You get a new identity, and you don't have to earn that new identity. Jesus earned it for you. And that is nothing but good news to those of us living in a post-Christian society, because we live in a world where we are exhausting ourselves by constantly trying to seek approval from other people. This approval for you, it could come in the form of a pat on the back and an attaboy and a year-end bonus check from your boss or your company. Or this approval you're looking for it through like maybe academics or athletic achievement, or you're looking for approval from your parents or approval from your kids, which is a terrible idea, or you're looking for approval through social media. And we're here and we're trying to work, and pretend in order to earn the approval of others. We just want to be loved and accepted, and we're trying to earn that love and acceptance by coming across as perfect, like we've got it all together. But in reality, we are dying inside, whitewashed tombs, and it's exhausting. And meanwhile, for 2,000 years and counting now, Jesus is standing there with his arm raised, and he's going, "Hey, listen, I was perfect so that you don't have to be. And I put to death all of your sin, all the ugly, broken stuff in your life, so that you don't have to hide it anymore. And I earned a new identity for you, so that you don't have to get exhausted by constantly trying to earn that identity for yourself." Like everything we're dying for, everything our post-Christian culture is yearning for and desiring and trying to wring out of social media and outward appearance and money and success and power, all of it is ultimately, totally, finally, and only found in Jesus Christ. And so you can just stop exhausting yourself and you can take the mask off. See, our culture says that identity can be found in outward appearances. So you had better have a picture-perfect Instagram. You better have a successful career. You better have money and power and notoriety. And so we end up chasing after that stuff. And this endless approval earning is killing us. And then on the other hand, Jesus says, your identity can be found freely in me. And he says, I love you through and through. I love the good and the bad and the ugly and the hidden stuff in your life. I love every single part about you. And he goes, so you can just stop the never-ending rat race of trying to earn approval from other people. You have it freely with me. And so the question at the end of the day is, which of those two options sounds more life-giving to you? And who are you going to trust? Culture's version and strategy for identity, or Jesus's? And if you want to take a shot at the good life that Jesus offers us, well, then the challenge is simple to say out loud, pretty difficult to live out. The challenge is this: take the mask off. For real, stop hiding behind the false version of yourself that you're portraying to the world around you. The truth is that God can handle all of you, including the broken, messed up stuff that you've buried deep down and you've kept hidden from the world. God can handle all of you, and so he wants all of you. God is not interested in and will not love the fake version of yourself that you're posting online or that you're trying to show people in the office. He doesn't care to love that fake version because he cares to love the real you. So hand him the real you and take off the mask. And if you want to try taking the mask off, there are 2 ways you can try that this week. All right, the first way is this: take the mask off with God. Here are some ideas of how you can do that. It's super easy to try. You could, first of all, you could read John 1, 12 through 13 every single morning. That's gonna remind you that you aren't the names you call yourself in the mirror. Instead, you're a son or a daughter of the living God. Read that every morning and then take 10 minutes to pray to him and just be real. Don't be fake. Don't sit there and talk to God like you think your pastor thinks God thinks you should talk to him or whatever. Just be yourself. Don't sit there and go, dearest Lord, right? Your blessings beeth too many to count. Like, first of all, you sound like Yoda. And more importantly, it's not you. It's just another version of wearing a mask with God. Just be real with him. Talk to him like you're looking for advice and wisdom and counsel from a good dad. I swear if you could hear my personal prayer life, a lot of you would not want me to be your pastor anymore. That's just true. Like, I lay it all out there with him. I hand him everything. A lot of my prayers sound like a bunch of the Psalms that you read in the middle of the Bible. I hand God discouragement and my anger and my confusion. And I talk to him about my frustration with why aren't you fixing me as fast as I want you to fix me? I talk to him about doubt that I have with him. I talk to him about my insecurities and the stuff I'm terrified. I just hand him all of me, and then I beg him to help me continue trusting him, which he always does. And then I beg him to love me despite my brokenness, which he always does. Just be real with him. Who are you fooling with the God of the universe? Take your mask off. And then if you want to try another way of practicing this, if you want to take another kind of riskier step and make this identity stuff not just a spiritual reality, but also a day-to-day practical lived out reality, then try this. Take the mask off with others, just with anyone else. Find someone you trust and then meet up with them face to face. Texting doesn't count. Social media doesn't count. You don't use this to slide into someone's DMs, right? Just get together with someone you trust face to face for coffee or lunch or a beer, or maybe Zoom if they live far away, and just practice taking the mask off. Be real with them. Be honest and be vulnerable. If that sounds good, but it's freaking you out at the same time, go listen to the last 3 weeks of the series we just did called In Your Corner. It's all about that. Listen, Jesus said this to us. He goes, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. And rest sounds good. And I believe that if we trust Jesus on this one, like if we choose to find our identity in him, instead of finding our identity in the amount of likes and comments that we earned, or in the pay raise and the promotion that we earned, or in the full ride scholarship that we earned, if instead we choose to allow Jesus to earn our identity for us, I believe we will find rest. We will find rest from the weary and burdensome and endless, exhausting attempt to earn approval from other people. And if we trust Jesus on this one, then you and I get to live in a post-Christian culture without caving to the loneliness and the isolation that this culture has created. And then the stuff that gets me excited is like, if we trust Jesus on this one, we get to live the good life. And if we live the good life, we get to be like actual lights to a dark world, which means we can walk through the graveyard of a post-Christian culture, and we can walk up to the countless whitewashed tombs, like the countless amount of people who are living behind a mask and they're rotting away inside, and we can say to them from experience, we can go, wake up, O sleeper, and rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. And go, wake up, there's a better way. You don't have to rot away inside. You don't have to pretend, and you don't have to go on this endless treasure hunt of seeking approval from other people. There's a better way. But if we're gonna do that, you and I have to practice what we preach. We can't do that if you and I are not first living out of our true identities as sons and daughters of the living God. And so who are you gonna trust? Culture or Jesus? God, I thank you so much for this room right here and all of our different campuses and all the people watching online right now, God. Anytime we talk about culture, we just get a little nervous, get to feeling a little bit uncomfortable. But God, you were true 2,000 years ago in what you said with this stuff, and it's just as true today. Like, you're so pitch perfect. Like, you hold the keys to all the stuff that we're dying for. All of these deep needs inside of us, like identity and peace and justice and joy. God, you hold all those things in your hand and you say, they're yours if you want them. God, I pray that we would trust you on that. God, for anyone listening right now who all this stuff hit them hard and they're realizing, yeah, I'm living a double life and everything looks great on the outside, but on the inside, I'm rotting away. God, would you begin to show them the rest that you're talking about? Would you give them rest for their weary and burdened souls? God, would you give us the courage to just take the mask off with you? Who we fooling? You know everything about us anyway. You love us in and out. Would you just give us the courage to take the mask off with you? And would you give us the courage to take the mask off with other people and just start being honest and vulnerable so that we can start letting go of this endless need to find approval from other people? God, at the end of the day, I thank you for this room. I thank you for your truth. I thank you for this church. I even thank you for our culture, God. Would you help us to speak truth into it? God, I love you very much. And once again, I'm thankful. And I pray this in your son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen. Hey, listen, that was a curtsy. I shouldn't have done that. I actually ended up cutting 6 pages out of this talk. Do you want to just hear them now? No, just kidding. I love you. Next week, come back. We're going to talk about peace. Have a happy 4th of July. Blow something up on my behalf. See you next week.